bringing to order the regular meeting of the City of Ojai Historic Preservation Commission at 6:03 p.m. Let's see. We are in person and a virtual meeting and broadcast via teleconference. Meeting members of the public wishing to address the HPC on items appearing on the agenda are requested to complete a speaker's card, and if in person, and file it with the secretary. Cards are available in the lobby. Speakers should state their name for the record and limit comments to 3 minutes or less. Okay. To do roll call.
Chair McCann,
Here.
Vice Chair Sims,
Here.
Commissioner Akins,
Here.
Commissioner Bisaccia,
Here.
Commissioner Walker,
Here.
Commissioner Moore.
Here.
Okay, would we like to stand to do the pledge? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So now is public communication is the time set aside in our meetings for the members of the public to address the HPC on items of city business other than scheduled agenda items. Matters raised at this time may be briefly discussed by the commission and will be generally be referred to staff and or placed on a subsequent agenda. No action can be taken at this meeting. Do we have any public comment that's not part of the agenda? Do we have any online?
No.
Okay. So let's go on to museum report.
Sorry, Chair, I actually don't have a museum report, but, well, let me just share this with you. So the map exhibit, hope you went to that, it's down. The word for, fabric exhibit, which was quite interesting, is down. And now we have a wonderful exhibit. It is on Karen Lewis's artwork over the years. And so that was coming up when I was in the museum sometime this week. So that's coming up. It's going to be fabulous. There are also a multitude of other smaller exhibits that are spread throughout the museum that Wendy was putting up. So encourage folks to come and see the art.
Great, thank you very much. So now we're going to go to the consent items, the minutes of the April meeting that was tabled from the last one. So if you go
I'll
to-
move approval.
No one has any?
Actually,
Yes?
this side of the table is just wondering why we had April 12th minutes in there.
The minutes
Right.
were not
April 10th.
accepted at
10th.
the last meeting. There was an error that needed to be corrected, so it's coming back now.
Don't we
It's a
usually?
correction. It was a correction in the minutes.
It was more than just like a word. It was the whole description of an item.
Oh, okay.
And the request of, it was more appropriate to send it back, have it revised and come back.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, usually if it's just something small, we all approve as amended. Okay, that answers my question.
Okay, so,
Commissioner Bisaccia, you'll get an answer to your question?
Yes,
We both
thank
have
you.
the same question.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
all
thank
right.
you.
So do we have a motion? We have Craig that did the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, can we get a roll call?
McCann,
Yes?
Sims,
Yes.
Akins,
Yes,
Bisaccia,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
All right, and now we're going to go to the special meeting on May 22nd. Do we have any
that's item number
questions
2.
or corrections?
There is an error at the very top. It says that both Commissioner Bisaccia and Sims were present, and they were absent.
They weren't.
Okay. Is there anything else? No one?
So those, on the other hand, as Commissioner Aiken said, that with that correction, you can actually
Yeah.
make a motion and approve those this evening, if that's it.
I'll move with those corrections that we approve the minutes.
Anybody want to second that? Okay, I'll make that second. Can we get a roll call?
McCatton?
Yes.
Sims?
I was absent.
Akins?
Yes.
Basasha?
Abstain.
Walker?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Okay. Now we're on to item 3. So, I guess before we go to item 3, do we have a disclosure of site visits?
And ex parte comments,
Yes.
or contacts, I mean?
Oh, just a visit, walked by with Rick the other day, and we just looked at it,
Okay.
the building.
And then you and Commissioner Walker, Commissioner Akins, and myself also walked when we met with you in downtown. We walked up the street and we looked at
Oh.
stone walls and the also the wall that's at where Rainbow Bridge is. But we didn't talk to anyone.
So again, yeah, for declaring that what Chair McCann says is correct. We weren't there to look at this item itself. I was contacted by Jeff Becker to see if I could attend a kind of a tour today. Obviously, that was impossible. Been everywhere today. And so that I did drive by it purposely, took a picture while I was at the stoplight, just so I could reference something when I went home. But again, did not talk to Mr. Becker or at all.
Okay.
Well, I drove by several times and I've walked by there hundreds of times, but I haven't talked to anybody.
Thousands of times, right?
Yes, correction, thousands and thousands of times.
Yes.
I walked by and I was curious about the slatted what looked like vents, because I had never paid attention to that. And there was discovered there was a window that was open inside, looked very dark, but those are all, I believe, operating windows that are behind those wood slats. And then I looked at the entrance on Ojai Avenue and kind of took careful attention to the painting of the faux rock, and just looked at the situation of the doors and the glass, and that was it. But I didn't speak to anybody.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, now we can go on to the next item, which is item 3.
Item number 3, thank you,
I'm sorry,
Chair.
what-
Item
we are
3.
3, okay. Yeah, just want to make sure we weren't missing anything.
So the chair and I didn't discuss this in advance, and so I think at the beginning of the meeting versus the end is probably the best. But so Commissioner Levitt has resigned, and we have 6 members now, obviously, and I know you all know that. So a quorum now is, different number of people. You need the majority, so you need 4. Just so it's on public record now. Thank you. So item number 3 is major work permit 25006, and it's regarding a renovation to the west street-facing side of 202 East Ojai Avenue, which is called 102 North Signal Street. On April 28th, the applicant submitted an application requesting HPC approval of this major work permit for renovation, and including the modification includes a modification to the west-facing entrance and addition of a window just south of that existing entrance. Putting in that window would require the elimination of one of the existing fixed wood vents that was just mentioned by Commissioner Moore. The building was built in 1917, and it's a contributor to the California Register of Historical Resources, listed downtown Ojai Historic District. Pursuant to the proposed project analysis that was in your packets, or is in your packets, prepared by Page and Turnbull on May 16th, 2025, the existing side entrance is not part of the original building construction. The analysis indicates that the entrance was later, a later alteration, which is why there's not an archway over it, as there is the entrance immediately adjacent to the north, and the stone is, the only word I can think to use right now is awkward, as opposed to looking like it was planned. The original construction of the building did, however, include the 4 central bays, the large bays that are along the west elevation, with the small openings that have the fixed wood vents. The existing entrance includes 2 single-pane fixed windows set above a brick base at the currently, and the windows are angled inwards to meet the aluminum-framed glass entry, and the proposed alterations include replacement of that entire system where the entrance would be flush, but they also have included an alternate design, sorry, I'm stuttering, that would have the entire system set in, but set in straight as opposed to at an angle. And again, there's a window, a large commercial window proposed immediately adjacent to the right that would take out one of those existing windows with the wood slats. The proposed analysis that was provided in your packet for your review includes standards for rehabilitation and describes in detail how this project, how in their professional opinions the project meets the standards, which acknowledge the need to alter or add to a historic building to meet continuing or new uses while retaining the building's historic character. The Secretary of the Interior standards and guidelines work to ensure as little loss of significance as possible. Approval of this major work permit by the HPC or council, if this were appealed, would require or is required for this exterior alteration or reconstruction, restoration, rehabilitation, or any of the other items that are listed on page 3 or 4, which would either physically or visually alter the existing building. Following the HPC approval, this project will continue on to the Planning Commission for review and consideration of a planned development permit. However, it will not move forward until an approval has been provided by the HPC for the major work permit. And we have the applicant here, and I believe we have the historian online. Mr. Becker wasn't able to get here tonight. However, we do have Jason Herber, architect. So, not yet, sorry. If you have any questions of me, and if you don't, we can call up Jason.
Does anybody have any questions from the city? No. All right.
I just have one question. So you're aware that I have a letter that at some point I'd like to read into the
Oh, thank you.
record. I just didn't know when was the appropriate time for that.
What I would like to say is that we've received many letters, and they're all on our website, and they've also been provided to you via email. And I think with what you'd like to read would be during commissioner deliberation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So if you don't have any questions of me, then the applicant could come up and add to my presentation if he has something to add, or if you have questions for him. You ready for that?
Sure.
Okay. If you could state your name.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Jason Herber, the architect for this project. I just wanted to make sure that Hannah is online, because I'd like to hand off to her as soon as I'm done.
Yeah, she is.
Okay, great. And then, Maura, is it possible to flash this slide up? Do we have any visual? Okay, got it. Okay.
We do.
But we have that in our packet,
Okay.
so what page is it?
Yeah, I would like you to refer to this elevation sheet. It's A300. I'm not sure what page it would be in your in order of the series, but that's the document. It's just the 2 colored elevations. So This is going to be the best reference.
It's page 11 of 12 in the back.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it, thanks. So I'll let you find that page and then kind of go over our design.
It's the last
concepts.
page on item 3.
Okay, so the image at the bottom of the page is the existing conditions, and then we have the proposed revisions up at the upper image. This building has been owned by the same family here locally since 1970, used as a pharmacy until basically this last year when it was vacated by the pharmacy tenant. As you all know, you probably encountered this some in your city, that it's really difficult to occupy retail and commercial office spaces now. So this suite with the pharmacy was around 3,500 square feet. So the owners want to demise this space into 2 smaller suites. One will be 1,500 off Signal, and the other one is 1,900 off of Ojai Avenue. And so when we do that, the suite towards the rear, there is an existing entrance and exit off of Signal Street. That's the only point of entrance and the only point of natural light into this new suite towards the rear of the space. So that's why we are proposing to open up this panel and add a new light. And in addition to that, at that existing door, there's a 9.5-inch height difference there. And so we're gonna have to put in a significant ramp inside of that doorway to provide accessibility access into that suite. So that takes up that entire area beyond that door and existing storefront system. So it wouldn't allow any opportunity to provide display or anything visual if there's a retail tenant there. So we wanted to propose this new opening to provide more natural light and then a possibility of retail display. So apart from that opening, we also are proposing to kind of replace this existing storefront on Signal. It was built in the 1960s. It kind of has a angle to it, which isn't currently ADA compliant. Maura did mention that we are proposing 2 options. They look identical in the elevation, but essentially one of the storefronts would be set back and one of them would be at the building envelope edge. And this is because we don't know what our future tenant is going to be here. And if it is some kind of occupancy, like a wine tasting or something that has an assembly occupancy, we would need to exit out and have the door swing out, which it can't swing over the property line. So that's, I'd hate to propose 2 different options, but that's what we're doing here because we don't know what that future tenant is. But again, it doesn't impact how this elevation appears. We're also adding new paint. We're patching the existing stucco as needed and painting it this Navajo white color. And then we're also replacing this 1960s era aluminum storefront door and window frame that's off to the left-hand side of the page with a wood doors and windows that are probably more authentic to what was originally there. That's essentially what we're proposing. The stone, this elevation doesn't give it a good indication of the texture, but there's a little swatch here. That's a photograph of the existing stone. That's how it will remain. We want to make sure that maintains its original condition, and any mortar that would need to be repaired would be matched to what is authentic and original. That's essentially it. Hannah, our cultural resources planner, did have something to add as well. I don't know if you'd rather ask me questions now and then go on to her.
I have a question.
Okay.
Did you ever consider putting skylights in?
We've discussed that, yeah. That would probably help with the natural light, but it doesn't really help with the retail, the opportunity to display retail there. Because this is a major thoroughfare, we want to make sure that passersby can kind of see into the space, whatever tenant occupies it at a later date.
Because it is a pretty unique wall.
I agree, yeah. Yeah.
And it's a pretty narrow sidewalk that can be pretty busy.
Right.
Anyway.
Yes.
The store to the left in the top,
Yes.
it looks like you're changing that door as well.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So will that come before us? Or does that not have to? Or is that in here?
For which ones?
The door on the taco shop?
Oh, that's gonna be moved?
Well,
So-
no, it's gonna be changed.
Oh,
That's not included in your
Okay,
plan.
it's not, so I was mistaken, it's illustrated here as part of
Right,
the
it's
development.
illustrated.
Apparently, it's not part of this application, but hopefully we could, bring that into conformity at another point if this moves forward. or-
I just thought it was strange that it was on here and wasn't reflected in
Okay.
any
We should have moved
discussion.
would, make a would.
Does anyone else have questions for the applicant?
No.
Okay, do we want to,
Thank you very much. Yeah, Hannah Simonson is with Page and Turnbull, our cultural resources planner. So
Yeah,
she'll
can you
kinda
guys
go
hear me?
Hi, Hannah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just wanted to add a few comments to what Jason's already said. I'm Hannah Simonson with Page and Turnbull. As noted, we were hired to write the project analysis report for the property that's in your packets. As Maura already mentioned, the property is a contributor within the California Register listed downtown Ojai Historic District. The building was constructed in 1917 as a quote modern garage with an auto and horse livery annex. However, within about a year, the building was subdivided into two quite long, narrow retail spaces for a grocery store and pharmacy. And the two windows at the south end of the Signal Street facade were installed either in the late 1910s or early 1920s. So those were added for display for the pharmacy use. And then a new storefront at 104 North Signal Street, that's the taco restaurant, was installed. There was some different kind of door, not storefront, but doorway there prior. And then the new opening at 102 Signal Street, which is the area of the proposed project, was installed by the 1970s. So I think you can see here there's kind of a demonstration of an early history of adaptive reuse and alteration to this building. It's had a number of different uses over the year, as well as a variety of retail tenants and changes that are associated with that. And our analysis of the proposed project before you found that the current project does meet the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation. There are no proposed changes to the primary facade or arcade or the distinctive Mission Revival style parapet. The wall along Signal will still retain its character as an uncourse stone wall, most of which I think had been previously obscured by a vine. So that's why you probably now have noticed the wood vents and those nice keystone arches. So the overall stone character will be retained, as well as all of the engaged piers and 3 of the wood vents, as well as all of the keystone arch headers within each bay. And the proposed project would also kind of, I guess, clean up, for lack of a better term, the edge of the existing storefront. You notice that it's kind of a not very straight edge there. So that would be a little bit cleaned up, but the keystone arch is still there if you look closely, so that would still be retained. And as Jason mentioned, the non-historic 60s era brick and metal storefront would be replaced with a wood frame storefront, which we think is more compatible to the kind of character of the district. The standards for rehabilitation do allow for modifications for adaptive reuse, and our analysis found that these limited alterations to the side facade are compatible within that framework. The building will retain historic integrity as a contributor to the downtown Ojai Historic District, and as such, there would be no adverse impacts to the district under CEQA. So that's kind of a summary of our findings, and I'm happy to answer any questions that are more related to the history or that analysis.
does anybody have any questions for Hannah?
I'm reading on, I guess it's page 21 of 40, attachment D, and I'm just confused about the addresses, and it's saying that there's no alterations proposed for the front of the building. It says 104. I mean, it's all about 202, and then they have these other two numbers of signal 106 and 104. And, you know, it just says there's not gonna be any alteration, so I'm a little, this paragraph has confused me.
I just want to jump in real quick and tell Hannah that that's page 19 of. 21 of 40. No, but it's page 19 of the proposed project analysis. It's page 21 of 40 of your packet. So, the packet.
Yeah, there are a lot of addresses on this building, so I do understand that it can be a little bit confusing. So the changes in question are at the retail unit that is addressed 102 North Signal. So that's where the proposed change is. There's currently no proposed change at 104, which is the taco restaurant, or at 106, which is, I think it's a store. I can't remember what it's called or what the use is further north, and that is actually technically part of the parcel, but there's no proposed project there either. So I was trying to clarify that there was nothing happening at either of those spaces, so I'm sorry if that created confusion. And then also no alterations proposed along Ojai within the arcade. So it really is limited to the one storefront and the one window, at least at the exterior.
You are gonna, aren't you asking also to change the entrance on Signal, or not on Signal, on Ojai Avenue to, it's not gonna be recessed quite the same way? Is that correct? Am I understanding that correctly?
202 East Ojai Avenue is the address of the very long rectangular building.
Right.
And all those Signal Street addresses are part of that long building.
Mm-hmm.
The front of the building, 202 East Ojai Avenue, is not proposed to be altered at all through this project.
Okay.
The only alterations are on the west-facing wall for 102 North Signal.
Okay.
Does anybody else have questions for Hannah?
I'd just like to make a quick correction. It's not that important, but the garage was sold in 1918 by Thomas Clark. He didn't sell the building, but he sold the garage business to a man named Runkle, and it continued as a garage for some time. It was converted into commercial space in 1927, and the original builder, Robert Winfield, came back and did all those renovations of changing the front of the building and everything into the commercial space. What's confusing about it is that the pharmacy existed before that and was further down in the arcade to the east, and then moved like 3 doors up from the building in question around that time. But it wasn't until 1927 that the pharmacy that we all know occupied that building.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions for Hannah? We want to start deliberating between ourselves?
If there's no one in the public to speak, then you can close the public hearing and start your deliberation. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak? Ida?
No.
Okay,
Then you can close the public hearing.
let's close the public. All right, does anybody have anything? Commissioner Aiken?
I do, and it goes to what I asked about earlier. So, as you said, it's informative. The history on this is on the Ojai History website, as Drew Mashburn pointed out in an email to us, and it was very, very insightful. It gave an understanding of who has owned the property, who currently owns the property. I will tell you that in 2022, when we started the Downtown Historic District, local Downtown Historic District, and I'm guessing this is right after some kind of correspondence went out to the parcel owners, that we received a communication from Evan Batt and Richard Batt, and I'd like to read this in the record, because these are the people that we're dealing with now. It says, Dear James Vega and members of the Ojai City Council, I am a parcel owner inside the current map proposed by the Historic Preservation Commission as an area it seeks to designate a historic district. I have experienced firsthand the city's lack of cohesive governance, compounded expenses, delays, egregious actions, stipulations, determinations, and conditions that have had no benefit to me or for the community. I protest the historic designation and exercise my exclusive right as a parcel owner qualifying as a voter. Further, I object to any and all future attempts by the Historical Preservation Commission to include my parcel in any designated district or landmarking designations, historic or otherwise, and to protest and object to any zoning changes or change to the general plan or street traffic circulation within the designated sponsored HPC actions under Title IV, set forth in Section 4-8.06 and 4-8.09. In closing, the authors of this letter say, I do protest, object, and further request a full disclosure of all the conditions, including limits in ownership, parcel numbers within the proposed areas, and under Part 2, the total number of eligible voters with votes, the time frames, and the total expenses anticipated to be spent by the taxpayers for that endeavor. Since I was the one that was actually contacting the parcel owners and trying to get a hold of the parcel owners and try to answer all of their questions, I took quite an affront to this letter, and I have remembered it and think about it most times that I walk by that corner. And so when this came to our attention on making this change, I asked for that to come out of public records and to read this. So my question is that on the Secretary of Interior standards, that we're supposed to allow in not my words, but the words of the many letters that we got, the desecration of a wall that has been there for over 100 years. And we're doing that so as to aid the business owner to continue doing business in that building. It just seems to run against my nature
Thank you.
on both of those items, both the owner that we're dealing with. I will point out that in that history that's on, that drew to, Evan Batt actually did a posting in that, so this was just a few years ago, and talked about his time working with his father in that building, and that was quite touching. So I wanted to add that also as another comment that I was aware of, just to kind of balance it out. But again, my question is, how many things do we need to destroy, according to the Secretary of Interior standards, to further someone's business, their focus, not the community's?
Thank you. Can I ask that Commissioner Walker, he sent out something to us about a little bit more information about the history of the building. Can you let us?
Well, I just have some comments about
Okay.
the project.
But is additional, is there a time that you're going to be sharing a little bit of this information?
Yes.
Okay,
I'll
good.
do that within here. So anyway, I prepared some notes because this is an important building. It does have a lot of significance for the people of Ojai. The historical consultants say in their report that they did only, quote, limited research, unquote, on the history of the building. I found the report to be inadequate for determining the historical significance of the building and therefore the impact of the project on the historical significance of both the building and the downtown Ojai Historic District. First thing is the historic report was clearly written just to justify the applicant's project, not necessarily to support the goals of the city. They say, quote, the proposed project analysis has been prepared for project sponsor, the Becker Group, for the proposed project at 2002 East Ojai Avenue, unquote. The Ojai ordinance states clearly that the client for these reports should be the city of Ojai in furtherance of its goals. The goal of the city, as stated in the general plan and ordinance, is to preserve as much of the historic character and fabric of historic resources as possible, not the demolition, alteration, or reimagining of those resources. There is always a range of levels for measuring a substantial impact to the historical significance of a resource. The lowest bar is whether the resource would completely eliminate the eligibility of a contributing property to a historic resource. The higher bar is whether it materially impairs an important character-defining feature, in this case, the rock wall. Demolition, by definition, impairs a character-defining feature, and this alteration is not insignificant. The limited history given in the report, is inadequate for determining the historical significance of the building and the negative impact of the project. There's no discussion of the building's origins as an integral part of Mead and Requa's downtown redevelopment project. The architects and their builder, Robert Winfield, didn't just slap a stucco arcade on the front of existing buildings. They moved several buildings across the street, and they added new buildings, one of which was this one. It served as the architectural and the structural anchor for the new arcade. It was undoubtedly designed by Mead and Requa. When it was renovated in 1927 to convert it to commercial space, the alterations were done by Winfield and probably Mead, who at that time served on the Ojai City Council. I added to the history with a submission to the commission, so we have that there.
Can I ask, does anybody have a problem with him continuing? No? Okay, please.
Not at all.
The building also played an important role in combating the two historic downtown fires in June and November of 1917. Only a couple of months after the downtown was finished, a forest fire roared down Foothill Road, knocked out like 60 different houses and structures, and it stopped right before the arcade, but it went around it, and it burned through what we now know as Libby Park all the way to where the athletic club is. And on the north side, it went around and burned. And it makes sense that what stopped that fire was probably that rock wall, that the embers couldn't get through and to it. And not only did that, was the arcade saved, then a few months later, in November of 1917, a stove overturned and a fire started in the arcade around where Raines is now, and it burned down to the west, but when it got to the rock wall, which went all the way around the building, that stopped it and saved that building. And I have pictures in here that showed how the arcade actually still was standing, even though a lot of the wooden buildings had collapsed. It didn't bring those arches down with them because they were anchored to that building. There was no discussion in the report of cumulative effects. Over the years, there have been 2 compromises of the rock wall. Now they want to add a third. There are 3 more bays in the wall. If we allow this, why wouldn't we allow the next 3? And if we turn down the 4th one, why wouldn't we turn down this 3rd one? The cumulative effect will be a mini strip mall along Signal Street. There is no discussion of this cumulative effect possible in the report. There's also no discussion of the historic vine, which goes back at least 100 years. This historic cat's claw vine draping over the rock wall creates a popular and historic work of public art. There's no discussion of the potential for undermining the integrity of the rock wall. You may remember not that far back that we were told that the front of the Ojai Theater had to come off, the stucco, because they discovered that it had been undermined and it was no longer safe. Well, what if that happens in this case? Are we sure? Have there been reports done that would guarantee that in creating those new openings, the rock wall wouldn't collapse? The 1927 remodel of the garage into commercial space kept the stores consistent with the general form of the arcade stores running north to south. The project creates a new east-west storefront out of the original north-south store. This is a major change. Part of the historic significance is the history as reflected in the hearts and minds of the community. That's a major change. Libby created these downtown buildings in part to unify the people of the Ojai Valley, townspeople and those who lived out in outlying areas with a common bond of civic pride. I posted to an Ojai Facebook group a notice of this meeting and a brief description of the project. Over 300 people reacted or commented online. Many wrote letters, of which you got some. 95% strongly urged that the commission not approve this alteration of this iconic rock wall. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to add something if I could. I think it's great that we have a developer who understands adaptive reuse, and we've been meeting with him almost monthly recently. I just have to, I have a question that I've been just pondering over our last visits. The Historic Resource Report is a valuable tool that helps us inform through due diligence and extensive research whether or not a property has historical significance to the city of Ojai or the state of California. Yet these historic reports seem to lack depth into the property's history. Thankfully, Commissioner Walker has come to the rescue with research and sometimes personal knowledge to not only enlighten us, but to read into permanent record history that would have otherwise been lost. Historically, there has been reach out to local historians like Commissioner Walker, who wrote the revision of the Ojai history book, to find out a perspective that seems to be getting ignored. You can see by the outpouring of comments from Ojai residents and other stakeholders that there might be something more than just some stones on the side of an old building. I assume we are going to keep meeting like this, and so personally, I would like to see who's preparing the HRR to make sure that they reach out to local historians, to the museum, and to gather a more complete picture like this, like on page 5 of 40, stating that they conducted a limited historic research. These reports become part of our history, and if we didn't have Craig reading this into record, it's going to eventually be our only history of these properties. So, thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
So I don't know if any of you guys know, but I bought Bill Baker's Bakery in 2001, and it's, to be honest, it's kind of bamboozling to me that anyone would think that they could just handle a very historic building any way they want. I knew that when I went into it. I didn't have to read any, historic reports or have any meetings with anybody, but I owned that building for 21 years, and then I sold it to the people who have it now as the Duchess, and it is the same. And it never occurred to either one of us that we would ever change anything. So, and as far as making a window to have a window display, you got to find a different building if you want to have dresses or whatever in displays, but I am just can't even imagine destroying that wall. And also I owned the Libby Gatehouse, and I did a complete renovation of that, and I handled that the same way and worked briefly with the Historic Committee at that time. I lived there for 15 years, and again, it was very carefully done, and I just did it on my own with respect to the history of the area. And we just don't have that many of those buildings, and we've got lots of modern ones. So they're just, I think they're going to have to, the owner, who owns this building is going to have to figure out another way to get natural light in there.
Anyone else? Loran?
I agree. I don't want to see anything done to that wall. I'm horrified. I've grown up here. I walked by there. It used to be a soda fountain years ago. I mean, years and years ago. So much history. I remember calling in prescriptions and my husband to Lynn, who ran the pharmacy. This is just something, that whole area with the post office, people go to the pharmacy, get their prescriptions, go pick up their mail. That just was sort of the hub of Ojai, with the plant growing on the side and the rocks. And I mean, there's not even any there are no engineering reports in here. I can't even imagine that anybody would think to, oh, I'll just cut a hole in the wall, without a structural engineer doing something to look at it. I'm not for it, so I don't want you to get one of those people. I'm just amazed. And the report, as Commissioner Walker, you always add so much wonderful information to all of this. Keep doing it, please, because these are important buildings, and we can't let people that want to use the properties to make more money continue to do that. There are a lot of buildings down in the center of the arcade that have only one window in the front. They don't have windows in the side. So, I don't know. Not my problem. I just don't want to see this destroyed. And this is a lot. If you look at how much territory this is of that wall, it's quite a bit. So, that's all I have to say.
I would like to add, just to thank you to the public, whoever's watching this, for the outreach. I think it's important when we have items like this. I was talking to Maura earlier about them maybe going on to the official page of the city of Ojai on social media, so we start to get a temperature, so we hear the voices that we don't hear here, that we understand how these buildings affect people and how they feel about it. So I just want to thank everybody for taking the time out to write in and to comment.
I have a comment. This is just anecdotal, but my mother worked for that pharmacy for a good portion of her adult life. And I knew Len Batt as a teenager. He was a very sweet guy. And my mom worked for both the pharmacist, Stan Lazarus, and Len Batt. And she was kind of a historic figure in there, I guess. But besides that, yeah, I'm not in favor of it either. And part of it is our community is being altered just constantly now, and it's kind of death by 1,000 cuts. And this, for me, just kind of pushes me over the edge, because so many times we have gone along with changes that we probably shouldn't have gone along with on various landmarks, just to be accommodating. And, you know, it's like maybe you just got to put in skylights, and maybe it's going to have to be something else, or I don't know. But I don't think that the small town character of Ojai should have to pay the price for this. And I was very impressed by the outcry from the public. I'm a little surprised the room isn't filled, because usually it is in things like this. But there were a lot of pretty vehement letters, which is kind of satisfying because it shows that the public is paying attention. And they do care about that wall. Who knew? I'm a general contractor myself, specializing in historic restoration and renovation. Okay.
I'm going to put on another minute. Okay.
I'm almost done.
I think I didn't start you on time anyway.
I'm almost done. And I know that sometimes, especially in projects like this, you don't always get to do everything you want to do. You have to follow an assignment, and the assignment might be, well, gee, I have to make this work somehow, but I can't punch another hole in the wall. So anyway, good luck. Thank you.
So the one thing I want to, so we had a request that's similar to this recently. We had a new property owner come in downtown in the arcade, and ask for the storefront to be recessed so that they could eat in front of that recessed front, have outdoor dining. I'm pretty sure we unanimously felt that that wasn't appropriate. And this seems, and I'm sure that gentleman was asking for that to be honored because it was a brand new business, and that's just part of the Secretary of Interior standards to help defile businesses to, maybe a strong word, but again, that's what he asked. He asked for the existing walls to be moved back. In this case, different request, but it seems similar. Thank you, Chair.
I think that's something that when we think about the State Historic District, we are not talking about miles and blocks and blocks and streets and streets. It's such a small area, and it means so much to generations of people in Ojai. And I think it's our responsibility to be careful what we do, because if we did say okay to that, then the next business would want to push the window and have seating, and then it just starts. It's a domino effect, and we are responsible for this State Historic District, and it's like I said, it's what, a couple of blocks. It's all we're talking about here. So we have to be really careful, and the standards that we go forward, because future generations are counting on us. And like I've mentioned many times, the only way, a lot of these pictures that we see of the arcade, the only way that is maybe looking at the cars or the fashions. It's the same downtown. It's the same images that you can have throughout, and these are the same events. These are people who are having celebrations and events, and our 4th of July parade that's coming up. All of these things that we do year after year in this one little area, and this is our responsibility to make good decisions on this.
Can I make one just addition to what you said? So the other thing is, since I collect all things Ojai and especially postcards, the Ojai postcard collection is just fascinating to be able to go back and to look at what it was at the time. Pictures sometimes tend a little bit to come and go, but postcards show up on eBay all the time. And so that's what I went and I looked at on that. And so the museum, I donated to them my collection so that they could fill in any holes. And so the collection, as Craig knows, because Craig was very involved in the postcard book that was done there at the museum. The museum collection is just a fabulous place to go and find pictures of olden days. Thank you.
Yes, please.
I think as a commission, too, all of the emails that I had forwarded to me from the city, I didn't see one that was in support of the windows. And so, I couldn't possibly vote against 100% of the emails I got.
So does anybody want to make a motion? Are we done with our discussion?
I move to deny removal of any rock for a window at, is it 102?
Yes.
Sorry. So the motion would be for the major work permit request,
Okay.
right? So you want to deny the request? Okay. So just the way you word it, because the whole request isn't just about removing rock. So if
Why doesn't somebody else say it?
Well, I would just move that we deny the major work permit.
Okay. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Roll call, please.
McAdden,
Yes.
Sims,
Yes.
Akins,
Yes.
Basasha,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes,
Moore.
Yes.
but I think that means that they could come back with another application that didn't include those windows.
So the applicant, of course, can come back, and the applicant can also appeal the denial to the city council.
Yes.
There's an appeal period that you can contact staff for that information.
Thank you so much. Let's go on to item number 4, which is Ojai Day. Do we have a staff report?
Thank you, Chair. So yes, this number 4 is regarding Ojai Day 2025. And the staff report offers recommendations, but also just to let you know what the discussion is. To anyone that's new, the commission annually hosts an open house during Ojai Day, and it's at the open house is at the jail, which is landmark number 7. And the participants from the commission usually dress up like inmates, although I've only seen Commissioner Akins do that, while providing a lively atmosphere for those touring the jail. And letting the little kids get in the little cells. This year, the commission has discussed including a celebration of the state-designated downtown historic district. And today at this meeting, you can discuss your ideas for Ojai Day. In the staff report, I've also included a schedule, because at tonight's meeting, usually what the commission does is they talk about who's going to be there and at what time, and you kind of go there in shifts, whether it's at a booth that I'm hearing be talked about or it's at the jail. So if we go back up to the top of the staff report, though, and the recommendations, tonight we would receive an update from Commissioner Akins regarding the plaque status, because that's something also that's been discussed for part of the celebration of the State Historic District, is unveiling this plaque. Discuss attendance and this schedule here for Ojai Day, and let's see, it's June, so I don't think it has to be, perfect today. You can certainly talk about this in July and August. And let's see, discuss and confirm your ideas for Ojai Day that include the state-designated downtown historic district and the unveiling of the plaque and whatever other ideas that you have. And designate a commissioner to contact the Ojai Day coordinator, who is Christy Rivera with the city of Ojai. So
Okay.
with that, I'm going to open it up to you and let me know if you have any questions or if you want me to keep you on task. Or
I'd like to start with Commissioner Akins regarding the plaque status.
Okay, I would like to point out that Christy Rivera is also the interim Parks and Rec person, so maybe you know her by that, correct?
yes, she is yes, but she's also going to be, I believe she's also in charge of Ojai Day. And if she's not, we'll guide you to that person.
Yeah, she has been for a number of years. I just thought, that might be a different way. Okay, so since the last meeting, Chair, Commissioner Walker, and myself, I've talked about the plaque. This was Chair McHatton suggested doing the framework that's in here as the addition. And so I got this back from mock-up from the entity that we're using. I have no idea when it came, but I found it today. That was the good part. So just putting this out there. Again, the question, and I think the chair will reference this, is the design, not the wording. The wordings, I think.
Yes, the words
well
have
said.
been approved,
Thank you.
and they are the same as what was approved when here. So we don't have to worry about looking at the words unless something happened when the person who's doing the layout accidentally typed word in wrong. That would be the only thing that would be changed. Otherwise, all the actual text is been approved by this body. So now we just need to talk. I had asked to see, because this, I saw this at a in Pasadena. There was a wordy one that had this sort of trim on it, and I asked to see it. We had made a decision not to do any sort of image on there because there's so many images that's overwhelming you at that moment. You're looking at the arcade, the pergola, the El Roblar, the theater, the post office, all right in front of you. So we wanted something simple. I wanted to see both ways, but this, I'm happy either way. If people think it would be better with this much text, just to have a simple border and not have a more decorative, I'm fine with that as well, whatever everybody wants. Also, we talked about forced justification versus left. And then when we were sitting here, Commissioner Sims asked about center, so that is something that could be discussed. But, so yeah, that we're talking about the look and layout right now. So if anybody has anything they want to, any opinions?
Well, I think that the left justification with the ragged right is easier to read when you have a lot of text. So I like it this way.
I looked online because I was thinking that you were wrong. I was thinking that most plaques would be forced justification, and they're not. They are generally left with the ragged right. I was surprised.
Didn't know that. Just a comment. So we talked about this in the meeting before that. So what we're trying to do is kind of is to get this essentially put in place so that the provider can generate us an invoice, so then we can run it to the city council or whatever's needed to approve that invoice. And we did get a bid on the last run that we did. And so that's kind of where we're at in that time frame, and why we're hurrying and why there's not a plaque in the 25-26 city budget. Right, as so far.
Yes, Loren?
Is there any other design that you could do around the edge that would be more in tune with the historic nature? This is so deco.
Yeah, because I was thinking
And I
it
don't know
was
what
the
to
20s,
suggest.
You know,
Right.
but it could just
Mission Revival, I tried to look up some ideas and
Yeah.
I came up empty.
I always think about space, that maybe a reason why a simple border might be better is if somebody tries to scratch in on it or write in. You know, the more text that's on here, the more lack of space would be a lack of where people can deface it at all. So if whatever we did, whether it would be a thin edge or something like this, not something where it was thick enough where someone
Right.
can write or etch in it, I think that would be safer. I think we've been pretty lucky with our plaques, but, you know, I just try to think of making sure it stays nice for years to come. So did you have a suggestion, or do you think it should just, like, what would be a?
I don't know. This just to me is too deco, and there's nothing downtown that's deco. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm happy with just a simple border too.
To maybe just take out the
Yeah.
squares and leave it,
Oh, leave the double without the
Yeah.
squares?
that's
Yeah,
perhaps,
I'm,
but,
I
you
think that
know,
would look nice.
That-
Yeah?
Well, I don't really care, but I think I like that better than these
Yeah, I
deco.
don't like the square.
Okay.
And once I've seen the squares, yeah. So remove the squares, do it left justification with the ragged right, keep the
that's
City
interesting.
of Ojai, City Council and the centered in the bottom. Everybody like that?
That's fine.
Okay. And then I have seen a lot of plaques do all caps, but I think that it looks better like this. Yeah.
Mhm.
Anything else? So can you tell him this plaque, just like is, except not the little squares?
Oh, not the corner squares there?
Yeah. Having a double border, but not the corner squares.
Sweet. I will.
Is that everything? Is that correct?
And then, so what I'll do in that is I will get because someone asked me this, and that's the delivery, what we're looking for on delivery. We, as a deadline, seem to indicate that the deadline for delivery is to have it by Ojai Day. But-
Or before to mount it by Ojai Day?
You know, to
Well,
however long
before
it takes.
by, yeah,
Yeah,
before, yeah.
September.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
as fast as they can
Something
do
like
it.
that,
Again, this is being casting. When we did the plaque for the, down at the jail, we hit a few delays, so, I won't report anything I have to the chair and to.
Is it the same company?
It is.
They
the
did a
same
beautiful job.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it also could have been delayed because there was an actual face on it. Hopefully, this just being text might not be as complicated.
Yeah, I will know more tomorrow.
I do have a question. In bronze, can you do italics, like the City Beautiful? Will that show up in bronze?
I don't know what you're talking about.
The word City Beautiful is in italics.
Yeah, it seems like it should. I mean, they can do pictures on
What-
there. They,
What paragraph?
this is
Second,
the
third up from the bottom.
City Beautiful
okay.
italics.
Or,
They should be able to do that.
well, it looks like it, yeah, they
Yeah.
put it forward.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
Chair Sims?
Yes.
And the other thing is, so when we did that plaque that's on the jail, you know, we were all working through that. I was always a little concerned because of where it's located. They use the process that is used for putting plaques on military naval vehicles. I figured if it stood up to that, and every time I'm in Libby Park, I walk over and the plaque still looks beautiful, so I anticipate we'll see that again. Thank you for your questions and comments.
So do we need a motion on this, or do we just tell Commissioner Akins to just lose the squares on the corner and move along?
I don't think you need a motion, but does everybody agree?
Okay,
Does anybody not agree?
no, we all agree.
So, and we already know you've already all agreed to a plaque and to the words, so I think you're fine, thanks.
Okay, so next, Commissioner Walker and I went and met with the director at the museum to talk about some sort of banners or using maybe foam core images that they might already have. And Wendy was very, she says that if you want to use something once, put it on foam core. If you want to use it and have it be of value, to put it on vinyl. And she took us upstairs and showed us some of the images that have been done for different events that the museum does. So she said that if we wanted to do like to have one at the jail or have one at a booth, ones that we can use year after year. She said that, I think she said $3.50 a square foot, and she suggested using some of the color postcards and for images, and maybe doing one that was about anyway, we're working on that. So we will be able to, and she said she can get an invoice with that as well. So we would want to know after the plaque what the amount is that we have left, and if we have enough, then we would like to make some banners for Ojai Day that we can use for that and for other purposes.
As soon as we get the invoice, then we can do the math. All invoices have to be in by June 30th in order for it to be under the current budget.
Okay. So that happened. And then also the museum is in between events on Ojai Day. So what she was generous to offer us the museum to put on a slideshow of the history of Ojai, and have places where you can sit and watch it. And she said that not only that, but she's been putting stuff together for the Rotary Club, and that she felt comfortable doing it herself, and that she would make it for us. And so that is one thing that we don't have to worry about. We have a location, and let people come in someplace and get out of the heat, because it's usually pretty hot on Ojai Day, and learn a little bit of Ojai history, and we can have some information, and it'll be like a slideshow running about our history there. So that's the we have the plaque unveiling, we have the jail, and we also have a something going on at the museum with a slideshow. The last thing would be last year, the museum did not have a booth, and they want to make sure they have one. This year, we were talking about doing one side by side and sharing materials about Ojai Day, about the history of Ojai. And so that is something that we are going to be working with her as well and seeing if that, but those are the things. So we would need people to be at probably one person rotating at the museum, so it's not just the museum people putting it on, one or two people at the jail, and then one or two people at the booth. And so that's kind of all of us maybe rotating place to place throughout the day, or getting our friends of the commission to help us. And so yeah, that is where we're at. And I'm happy to be the person to talk to Christy Riviera, since I'm the person kind of leading this, if everybody doesn't mind. Yeah, okay. Maybe you can do that with me, Commissioner Akins. We could,
Yep.
since you, yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
whatever's needed.
All right. So that's all that I know right now. I do know that when there's the unveiling of the plaque, everybody has to be there. So, maybe we have to figure out a schedule so we all convene where the plaque is, and then we can all go to where the other things are. And then hopefully have the mayor there and some city staff and council and, so picture opportunities and things like that.
And we'll get Rose Boggs' son, who dresses up like Edward Libby.
That's who that is. It's
He did
Rose Boggs'
last year.
son. 'Cause- Yeah, we were hoping that he would maybe talk in between the slideshow before
Yeah.
it loops, and if we give him some
You
words
can
to
give
say.
Libby's Ojai Day speech that he gave on the first one.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what I got.
So just a question, follow-up question, Morris, since it is within the budget, what kind of, do we have to go to the city council to get approval for that plaque, or?
No, the city council already approved the plaque, or
Okay.
the idea of the plaque, and so now it's just, how much does it cost, and you better have enough money in your budget, which, and I'm teasing, I know you do.
Okay, good.
I'm
That
sure
makes
you
it
do.
easier.
Mhm.
Great,
Great.
thank you.
I don't think we have to vote on any of that. It's just an update. Okay.
Right, so if you want to talk at this meeting or the next meeting about who's gonna be where when, but it's something that
That's,
you'll want to
I
organize.
think we have to kind of figure it out. That's why maybe if you can help me kind of figure out with the museum, kind of be our liaison with the museum and try to figure out who should be where when.
Sure.
So, and you see and hear that in the past, the setup starts at 10 a.m. And then the breakdown is, it says here, from 2:30 to 4. But no, that can't be right.
That's the last shift is 2:30 to 4, and it includes breakdown.
Thank you, okay.
I think that
Um,
was great
doesn't,
having, oh, sorry.
Doesn't the event end at 3? I think the event ends at 3, and so from 3 to 4, anyway, sorry, go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, so yeah, I'd like to just work on a schedule at a future meeting.
I thought it was great last year with Richard Sennett. Will he be back, or
I can contact him.
the kids loved that?
Oh my gosh, all these little kids were just like.
Their mouths were
Wall.
agape.
Okay,
We did confirm which jail cell has the ghost. When you can infer one to the right, and it was double conferred, because the people that can sense that, actually a woman came in with an older female and went in, and we just, we didn't say anything to her, and she came out and confirmed it, because, we weren't saying anything, but we were all at the door waiting to hear.
well, I would like to hope that if there is a ghost, that it's not stuck in one little cell, that it can go, can hang out in the park.
Try to keep the devil as far away as possible.
Okay.
He and the kids, that was just.
That was
fast.
great, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'll reach out to Richard if you'd like.
Okay, so now we're on to item 5, the Arbolada rock curbs.
Yes, so Commissioner Akins requested that the Arbolata rock curbs be included on the agenda for this evening. So the commission needs a second in order to then take a vote amongst the 6 of you as to whether or not this will be an item for a future agenda. There is information here regarding that process. So if the commission votes to move forward, then staff will investigate the process. That includes city council consideration and support of the commission moving forward with trying to designate or nominating the rocks in the Arbolata as landmark. Does that make sense? Is that clear?
Well,
Clear as mud?
yeah, I'm just wondering if I can comment because I don't know what people know about that before.
Well, I just wanted to say that, and then certainly you have, Commissioner Akins has an opportunity then to talk about the Arbolata rocks. Is that what you're saying? And then
Yeah, just real quick.
right, you'll do that, and you'll be talking about obviously what's been provided in your packets, and then if there's a second, then you'll take a vote, and then this will move forward to another agenda with the process of how to move forward with the nomination.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Walker is looking at me with a question look on his face.
I didn't quite get why we would have a second to move forward.
So 2 members of the commission have to request that an item be on the agenda. And so it got on the agenda because Commissioner Akins and Levitt requested that it be on the agenda. In the meantime, 2 things happened. One, well, actually, one doesn't matter. Levitt resigned, so we only have Commissioner Akins here. We need 2 people in order to even get this on the agenda for tonight's discussion.
Tonight.
Yeah, but it's already on the agenda, so here we are.
Oh.
Get a second, and then take a vote, and majority says yes, then it will move forward with investigation, thus and such, in order for the commission to nominate the Arbolata
But
rocks
if we don't
as
want
historic.
to necessarily nominate it, but we want to just talk about it, can we do that tonight without putting it on the agenda?
Please, talk about it.
Okay.
And then decide, talk about it, and then decide if it's something that you want to move forward with
Yeah.
as a landmark.
Because I have some ideas, but I don't necessarily want to move forward with it as a commission.
So it's on the agenda tonight, so
Okay.
how about we start with Commissioner Akins?
Yeah.
So
And
I do have to say, I thought it was me that seconded it. You wanted it on the agenda, and then I seconded it. It wasn't Commissioner Levitt, it was me, right?
well, the reason I started with Commissioner Akins and Levitt is because those are the emails that I got. And the
Okay.
first email was from Commissioner Levitt stating that he and Commissioner Akins wanted this on the agenda.
Okay.
And then I got another message from Commissioner Akins. So,
I thought it was during our last meeting during, I think it was Commissioner comments, and Commissioner Akins was looking for a second, and I said, I'm happy to second it.
okay, well, it's on the agenda.
Okay.
2 people
know
here
if that
tonight
was-
wanted it on the agenda. If that's the case, then that's fine, please. So it's on the agenda tonight, and what you can do is discuss it and then take a vote as to whether or not you want to move forward with nominating it. And then, how's that?
Perfect.
Mhm.
Do you want to
With
start?
recommending it to the council.
I do.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so this first came about, I was talking with former Commissioner Levitt months ago, and he asked me, how do I get an item on the agenda? And so I told him, talk about it in commissioner comments, and if a second person does that. And so, so I basically ran with it. And the hardest part actually was finding out where the Arbolata exists. You can look at this. Doesn't really tell anything. You look at this. This was done by some study people. Or you could even look at this. So basically what I did was I went and drove around with my dear sweet wife, was looking at the stones, and I said stones because in the information that came in, this just gives you an idea of the booklet that was put together by Libby to do it. So in that it talks about the stones he put, so that's why I switched it to stones. So you also saw in the packet, so what I did, I went around, drove around, I sent the one to Randy. He said, actually, there are Portola, which I had dead ending, continues. For some reason, they stopped Portola, but it continued unpaved. And so he said, it's a great place to walk your dog and walk with your wife. So off we went real quick. That basically takes you all the way out to the gatehouse if you follow that, and it has the stones all the way through. So what I did was I took, based on I took Google Maps, and then I snipped that triangle and took it all the way up to, I think, Fairview on the top, over to Foothill on the right, over to Del Norte on the left, and then down to the road where the Frost Hall is, and the Nordhoff Grammar School. And so that's how that map took place. I was talking with Randy. Oh, I was telling him, thank you for telling me about the road continuing. He said, just a minute, I need to go say goodbye to Jerry Camarillo Dunn. Jerry's mentioning this, and he said Jerry had some information on it, so I asked that Jerry send the information. And then what I started getting is, and I know the chair did too, was emails in support of the stones that are there. They've been there for 100+ years. My rough guess was that there's maybe 95% of the stone still in place in going through those different areas. And there's lots of questions that go with it. If in fact we did that, how do you landmark a set of stones? And so I looked at our landmarks list for the city, and the nearest I could find is this thing called the Sespe Stone Wall. So here we have another essentially rock item that has been landmarked. There's lots of questions. A lot of people already that have written in. You see that as just one grouping on the letters that came in. And so, there's questions, a lot of questions. I get that. I had a lot of questions driving around. My wife did too. How do you know that's historic? I said, that's a question. So anyway, that's the idea. It seems to have an interest, as I said, from the people. Chair was contacted by somebody and that helped you understand how the word got out, that there was an email group.
So I would like to thank everybody for reaching out once again. When we understand the temperament and the temperature of what everybody wants, it's really helpful. But I do want to have a clarification that the rocks are not in danger. A lot of the letters that save, it was like, I'm going back to the future, but save the clock tower. It was like, save the rocks. It was like, how could you want to take those away? And why would you want to take? It was like, no, there's nothing like that. This is somehow, I guess when people read something, they think the only reason why it would be coming to their attention is because they're in danger. And I just wanted to let everybody know that it's not in danger. We're looking at it as whether it's something that can be an historic feature of Ojai.
And to add to that, so Tuesday night at the city council meeting, after 5+ hours, no wonder when I sleep, I know. After everything was over, I'm trying to be very clear about this, I talked with Matt Summers about that, and he said, actually, this issue had been brought up about 10 years ago with the city manager, Rob Clark, at that time wanted to get rid of them. And so Matt was going to email that to me. I haven't seen that article yet. So there was, and I didn't know about it. I did a search, and so, that may have a flavor to what we're doing. And I just think it's, just real quickly, so I turned up, I was taking those pictures, I tried to pick corners so I could do panos, and you can see that. So I was driving up, I noticed this group of 3 people walking south, and I went up, I did my pictures, I came back, I asked the group of 3 to stop, because I had a Ojai history class for them. I said that because Cheryl, the superintendent of the school, was one of those walking, and the finance person. And I asked them, have you ever wondered what those rocks are when you walk through the arbolada? And they said, yes, what are they? And so I got to share. So the good thing that's come out of this, whatever's decided, is getting history out to people to understand. And the fact that they're, for the most part, still there, is fascinating to me.
Mr. Walker, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, well, I've wanted to look at the Arbolada as a historic district for a long time. I thought that it shouldn't just be limited to the rocks, but the Arbolada, and try to put some design guidelines up that will keep everyone from building a 12-foot wall around their house or whatever, that would keep the general feel that Mr. Libby wanted, but the rocks are a good place to start. And you can also landmark a road, those roads and the design of the roads. You don't need to just do the rocks. You could do the roads with their right-of-ways and have the whole road system, because the road system is pretty much the same. And one of the things that we put into the new historic ordinance when we did it back in 2019 or whatever it was that the city could work with the county to combine their efforts and ours on a project, and the Arbolada would be a great use of that, because the whole west side of the Arbolada belongs to the county. It doesn't belong to the city, but there could be a cooperative effort between the city and the county so that all of the Arbolada would be part of this landmark or whatever district or whatever you had. My only concern is that a couple of things. First of all, we have a lot going on our plate right now, and I was thinking about there's a lot of other places we'd like to see landmark, and we've talked about landmarking them. So I'm not sure if we had to pick 1 or 2 to work on that this would be our first choice. I don't know, maybe it would be, but there's a lot of other ones out there that are begging to be looked at. So I think that also if there's 2 ways for something to become a landmark or a historic district. The Historic Preservation Commission can investigate it, can hire the consultant, and can come up with a recommendation for the council. And that's been done several times on landmarks. But also anyone can nominate a landmark. Anyone, it's in the code, anyone can landmark any organization. And what comes to my mind is the Taormina Historic District, because that was all done by the residents. Mm-hmm. And in a way that makes it better, because if it's done by the city, it almost seems like somebody's coming along and telling them what they have to do. But if it's generated by the people, and I was very encouraged to see that so many residents are for it, and it seems to me the ideal project to get the residents coming together and working together to do the nomination form and the nomination process. And then when they get that submitted to the satisfaction of the city planners, then it would come to us just for review and our recommendation to the council, the same way it was with Taormina. So I would like it to suggest that they pursue it that way, and that would work out best for everyone, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing Jerry has some weight in that, because that's how it started. I know him again, through David Mason, a fine individual, and I'm happy to reach out to him and,
Yeah.
come back and see what
And
he has to say.
Maybe even Randy would want to help with that end of it, because he seemed to like the.
I was thinking that as well. I was talking to Laurel before our meeting. I think Randy will be get more done that he wants to do from outside the commission, because he wouldn't have to worry about a lot of the things that he was worried about, like with whether he had to recuse himself and with either with the what is it, Mills Act, and then with the rocks. But if he is free to just be an individual citizen and lead on something like this with someone like Jerry, I think he probably could be really successful at getting something like this done. And it seems like the Arbolada email group is active group. I mean, from the time that an email went out to everybody until the time that Ryan and I started getting like bombarded with emails, that they have an organization tool that we don't have as a commission. And then there's there's all these rules that we have to follow how we can contact residents that as an individual group with this email. They don't have to do the same rules and regulations that we have. They can do it by themselves and get it all ready and then come to us with it. It probably, and then of course we could always
And I
be here to
suppose if
advise.
the city owns the roads and the right-of-way that goes out some distance, that then it would just be one property. Is that correct, would you think, Maura? That it would just be, I mean, it wouldn't involve all the property owners in their individual property. I mean, they might have a say in it, but would it be the owner of that landmark be the city of Ojai and the county if they get involved?
That's something that would be investigated.
Yeah.
Some of the rocks might be on private property right now, and some of them, most likely, most of them are on public right-of-way. But so that's yet to be seen.
Okay.
Anyone else? Yes.
So when I lived at 1001 Foothill Road, it was on the corner of Palomar Lane, and there's the arch there. My neighbor on Palomar Lane, I was planting some plants out front, and he came and talked to me and told me that he owned from his home all of the rocks and my little section of dirt that I was planting my roses in, as well as the arch. So, I mean, he didn't have any problem with me planting my plants. He just wanted me to know that his family, when they bought that house on Palomar Lane, all of that came with them, so, or an easement, whatever. So it would be interesting to find out, like.
Well, I remember that because there was a time when a truck went through and
I saw that happen.
it took out that
The
arch.
whole arch.
I think Mr. Vogue, was it?
Mr. Vogue, right,
He paid,
for fixing it, and then he put
Fixing
that
it.
ball on it,
yeah,
right. The hanging ball that he remembered being there.
yeah.
So, anyway, yeah, I think that a lot of the people in the Arbolada want it to stay that way and have a vested interest in keeping it that way.
Yeah.
Yes, and I know Jerry very well, and I think he's a real convincing person if he were to go through the neighborhood and, talk to all the people, because he's a very interesting man himself. But he's very easy to get along with, I think,
No, he is.
because I know him. I know he and Mary very well.
I will tell you one other thing. His son is photography.
Yeah.
And when I was putting together the memorial service for David there at Libby Park, I saw so many pictures of David finally set on one, and I found out it was by Jerry's son. And so, I talked to him, he talked to the son was happy. I mean, yeah.
Well, and he's got a beautiful house that he was thinking of landmarking. I don't know if he's still thinking of that, but
Guess we can ask.
it's wonderful, beautiful place, well kept.
I've heard that.
I know when Maura and I were working on the agenda, one of the things that you had said, Maura, was this is going to be a learning experience because this is some there's a lot of components here. So I guess we'll find out as we move along. But I would agree with Mr. Walker and Sims as having it come from the owners might be a nice.
So
way to-
should we pass a motion that we recommend that they form a nomination if they're interested? Or do we need to do anything?
How about we pursue that rather than impose that on the community?
What do you mean? What do you mean
That we
pursue that?
reach out to the community, see if they're interested,
Yeah.
and then bring it back to us, and we can, if they're interested, we give them the go-ahead and the support.
But we're not
Yeah,
gonna,
give 'em the
we're
go-ahead.
not gonna do anything until it's the landmarking application is submitted to us.
You have to ask them to do it for us.
They would have to be willing to nominate it and go through the city, go talk to the city, fill out the nomination forms, do everything that's required of a nomination, which we don't have anything to do with. We just review it once it comes in.
What is the cost?
Well, they would have to pay the cost of the historic report, and then whatever time the city puts in, if they put in the time on it, just like any other landmark.
And whatever then the application fees, which I don't have off the top of my head. I mean, I don't know how much it is. I would like to, if this is the way the commission would like to go, I would like to look into, and then speak with the chair, I think, about how the commission goes about pursuing, talking to somebody in the public and asking them or, to nominate something. Like, for instance, because again, this is a learning experience, as Chair and I have discussed. Speaking for the commission, or even as a member of the commission, like before this item was even on the agenda, and trying to encourage people to think a certain way, there's Brown Act concerns there. And so, persuasion, it's potential Brown Act issues. So I'd like to, and some of you have been on the commission for a long time and may know, things, be aware of things that I'm not aware of at the moment. But I'd like to look into that before one of you goes out and starts trying to persuade somebody to submit an application for a landmark.
But I've done that a lot. People have called, and part of what we do is to give information and to assist.
That's different than going into someone's house and knocking on the door and saying, "I'd like you to nominate," which is what it sounded like to me. So that's why I said we need to discuss.
They've already approached us, right, saying they're interested in this. So I think you can just tell them that if they're interested, they can submit an application.
Absolutely. That sounds a little bit different.
Yeah.
That's not going out and persuading somebody. That's saying, if you're interested, you can submit an application.
Yeah.
And so, is the idea then? I just want to be clear what you're doing. Is the idea that you're going to go and knock on someone's door, or are you responding to an email? Who's going to do this?
So my motion would be that we continue investigating this, gathering data on, and reaching out to these individuals, finding that article that Matt Summers referred to, and just gather additional information. I'm happy to have my wife drive this time, and then the plan was originally to do this map. This has the streets lightly behind it, and to highlight each side of the street on kind of a census. So I mean, I think it's a good endeavor. Is it the most important thing we do right now? We don't know enough to do that. What you said too on the city infringing. So anybody I talked to or emailed with that I knew, I would correct that.
Right. And I mean, that's, if you're reaching out to the people who contacted you first, then that's different than reaching out, going door to door, you know. So these people are asking us to save these rocks. Our reply can be, this is the steps that you would take to do that, you know, and then it kind of keeps everything cleaner.
And in our capacity as advisors to the public, we would be happy if they want to reach out to us to give them information and to talk to them about it.
Absolutely.
What it takes. And
Yeah.
you've been through it with Taramina, so.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this one's fun for me.
Great.
Yeah.
Gotten lost going from Miners Oaks to the Park and Rec, trying to, doing basketball and stuff.
So
It is
do we
so
need a
confusing,
motion?
even in the daytime.
You need so two people have, so now information has been given out to the commission, to the rest of the commission about Arbolata rock curbs. And so is this something that the majority of you would like to further investigate? Yes, you need a motion. And so I think we're
Am I-
looking at Commissioner Akins and Chair McHatton. The two of you were the ones who initiated this, and so please ask to take a vote as to something that you want to further investigate this.
What?
Keep this on the agenda.
I'm a little confused about what we're voting on, because all I want is for them to explain to them that the commission is not going to take this on as their own investigation, but we'll be happy to or give them information.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Akins said he wanted to further investigate. So I guess what the question is,
not
do you
as a
want this to be on the agenda, on the next agenda? If the answer is no, or if this is not an agenda item, or do you want it to be an agenda item?
Okay, so what if it's not an agenda item and Commissioner Akins takes the lead on this as an ad hoc? And, that he then contacts the people who contacted us and replies back to them that this is how it would work coming from them, not us.
It still sounds like it's something that the majority of you have to decide if this is something that you want to put your efforts towards, whether it's Commissioner Akins being an ad hoc by himself and going out and continuing, or is this, I don't know why this is becoming confusing.
He's just doing this
Is this
as an
something that the
individual.
commission wants to move forward with, whether it's reaching out to the neighbors and saying that, hey, if you want to do you want this as an HPC item or not?
So it's better that Commissioner Akins does it on his own as a private citizen.
Okay, so then so since two people asked for this to be on the agenda, then please take a vote. And it sounds like the majority is saying, no, we don't want this to continue to be on the agenda. So go ahead and just take your vote. Do you want this to be an item on the agenda or not?
I would like to have this not on our agenda with the understanding that we received all of these letters saying that they would like to see this saved and made historic. So even though it's not going to be on our agenda, I would like to encourage them to learn the next steps of how to make this historic.
And any one of us is available to
Right.
them for
And
information.
also the letters came to the city, so staff can also respond and say that, what the process is in order for them to make a nomination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
In fact,
So-
it says in there that they should go to the staff first to have a meeting.
okay, so how about staff respond to the letters, or I'm not gonna respond to 75 letters. So, but we can respond to a letter and state that, and if the commissioner does something on their own, that's fine. But I think the vote now is this going to be an agenda item? Or is this something that you're looking towards nominating as a landmark? And I think it sounds like the answer is no. Please make that clear and take a vote.
Okay, can I make a suggestion to the city that it seems like the Arbolata email group with Jerry Dunn as the head of that is the best way to reach all those people who.
Fantastic, thanks.
Okay. Does anybody want to make am I making a motion?
You're making a motion to
I'm
not
making a
keep this,
motion
to not move forward with this as a commission.
At this time, that it won't be on our agenda.
Right, you're not, oh, I'm sorry, you're not nominating it as a landmark. That's not your intention tonight.
Not tonight, no.
And I'll second that.
Perfect.
We want to have a roll call?
Ida,
McCann?
please take a
McCann?
roll call.
Yes.
Sims,
Yes.
Akins,
Yes.
Basasha,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
And so, Ida, you're clear that the motion is for the commission to not move forward at this time nominating the Arbolado Rocks curbs as a landmark.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was never the intention.
Okay. So now we are
Well,
on
I think it was with the first email that I received. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
item number 6. This is, oh, can I, going to go back a few. The item that was called Ojai Day, that was the 2 different ad hocs reporting. It was the one that talks about Ojai Day, but the other part of it, I know that Commissioner Akins and Commissioner Moore met and it talked about benefits to property owners for the California State Historic District. If we don't talk about it in that item, which is what it should have been, there's no place else that it would be except maybe commissioner comments. Where do you want
So
that?
I received that information in the last 24 hours, and so I couldn't write on it because the packets were already out, and so it certainly can be spoken about now, or let's go back to that item, since it belongs in that item. And all of the information that I received is on the dais and in front of you. Some of it might be on the website, but if it's not, it's on the dais, so it's okay to go ahead and talk about that.
Okay, so we're going to reopen that item, and I want to know if you have an update for your ad hoc.
And let's just be sure for Ida, which item we're going back
do.
to. We're going
It's
back
the
to item
Ojai
number
Day.
4.
Yes.
Yeah, because I kind of wondered where it was too. Oh, okay. What was that?
Sorry, I didn't mean to spring that on you, but I just
No, it's
realized we
fine. I'm sitting here
bypassed
with
it,
it.
and I don't know where else it would go.
Okay, so somewhere in item number 4. Yep. Okay, so an update, Laurel and I met Tuesday at the museum. At that time, I had essentially 9 documents, and they were from things that we had done, like I went back, I looked at the one-pagers that were put together. This all goes back to getting out and sharing benefits of the local downtown historic district. And so that's why I looked at the FAQ. Also, and so what I did was I narrowed it down to what I think I set out was 1 or 1:30 this morning, so I could get at least 3.5 hours sleep. And so I shared turned into 4 documents. One is I list the comments that Craig mentioned in the joint committee we had. I got that.
Oh, you found that?
Yeah, well, you sent it to me. So-
Okay.
So I just, instead of one paragraph, I just kind of listed them by the
Oh,
number.
okay, because there was an email sent, one of my emails to you was given to us all.
Yeah,
Okay, is that the same thing? That email? What was in that?
I haven't had time to look at it. So Craig Walker is one of those. The other thing is Historic Preservation Commission proposed downtown, this is proposed downtown Ojai Historic District. So this is FAQs that were in the 10-page document that the chair, Jenny Prebor, Cindy Combry, all put together. I went through that and a lot of them were questions like, why didn't you know? So what I looked through that document was what benefits were discussed on that. And so that's why in this document, you'll see question number 15, question number 23, question number 24, because the answer, they talked about benefits that go to those individuals.
And then did you separate it between what is a local historic downtown benefit versus what is this a state? So we can present make some sort of a document that's state-specific?
At some part, I can do that. Not today. And I apologize for not getting that until last night, but life has been a bit hellish and fun. Watching grandkids graduate from high school and elementary school. So the third one was benefits of being able to use the California Historical Building Code. I sent that out. That came from an article that looked like this. I think that was done by some group. And so I put the benefits: preservation of heritage, flexibility and compliance, enhanced accessibility. What I was trying to do was to put this information into something that we understand and something that we could explain to others. Okay, and then the other one, I think, was this by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And some of these, there was bigger answers, but I pulled out what applied to us. So 10 benefits of establishing a local historic district. This kind of goes along with what Craig was saying. And so these are in the package that I think Mara sent to you sometime today.
We have here. So
Sent
can
it
I-
today
You
and
passed
brought
it
it in, and brought hard copies in.
Oh, okay.
So what I would like to request of this ad hoc is for you to hopefully meet again and figure out what we would want in a flyer or a trifold or something that would go out to property owners and maybe even storefront people, if there was benefits to them as well, that's specific to the State Historic District. And so think you can do that by the next meeting?
Sure. So what I ask of people is if they can review these documents, and if there's information that we may be missing or questions that they still have, if they could
Send it to Maura.
send it to Mara, and then she'll send it to us, and then Laurel and I will get together and regurgitate it.
Perfect.
Okay, and then we'll do that.
Great.
Do you have anything to add?
That came up when we were talking, there was about getting help money-wise, and Brian and I talked about including that in our money requests budget, so that we can choose to help somebody do what they need to do to get landmarked, mills acted, because a lot of people are just not going to have the money to do that. These reports are very expensive. So I would like to try to figure out, and we could have 3 or 4 requests, we could have 10, and we review them and see who is it that we want to spend this money on, and other people could just get in line and wait. It might take them 3 or 4 years to finally get the money to help them get the report. But that's something that I would like to have us be able to do. You know, I don't want to feel like I could tell somebody, go out and spend $10,000.
Right.
So to add on to Laurel's suggestion, and that she suggested in this meeting, was kind of to get together to a group of grant writers that we could maybe make that, I know we can't recommend them, but that we could make that information available to these people to get, you know, as Laurel suggested, be able to not only say these are the opportunities, but hey, this is a way we think may be helpful to you. And I thought that was an excellent idea that Laurel made.
Yeah, there are questions I have, like if we knew of local builders and contractors, architects that were specialized in historic preservation, is that something that could be included? So they have, it's like, it becomes not just benefits, but resources. Can you include that? Like just, I mean, not recommending them, but just if they're in a list someplace, we're just sharing that list.
You're asking me,
Are we allowed to do that?
I'm sorry?
Are we allowed to do something like that?
You can have a list, I mean, we have a list of contractors, a list of different professionals. Yeah, we can't recommend people, but we have lists.
You can provide a list?
And so the HPC could provide a list.
Okay, thank you. So that might be a good idea too.
Yep, I'm writing it down. So
All right.
we'll talk about that.
So I guess we'll see what you guys come up with for next month? Okay.
Sure.
Now
And
there we go.
again, if they have, people have questions or suggestions or recommendations, please send them.
Okay. Now we're going back over to item number 6, which is the trail plaques, correct?
Rick, you want to
Yes,
start?
we have the trail plaques.
Do you have the
do?
staff,
All
the
right.
staff report for the trail pack?
Yeah, so at the last meeting, which was May 22nd, Commissioner Walker updated the commission regarding his conversation with the Director of Public Works and her support for the idea of the plaques. And Commissioner Walker reported that she, the director, would be making contact with Ventura County Parks Department and getting back to him. And he himself made contact with the Rotary Club regarding a plaque in Rotary Park. And the president indicated that she would get back to Commissioner Walker after her June 10th meeting. And Commissioner Walker also spoke with Dylan Murray from Ventura County, and who felt that the plaques might be the two of them thought perhaps the plaques could be a joint venture, and he would speak to Commissioner Walker after hearing back from the Parks Department. And Commissioner Walker stated that the Public Works Department suggested that the commission stake locations of these proposed plaques for Public Works staff to review. So those are the notes from the last meeting, and I'll turn it over to you now, the ad hoc
Okay,
commission.
well, I do
committee.
have some updates on those. We heard back from Lindy Palmer, the Public Works Director, and she said that the county Parks Department, which has control over the trail, sounded very positive. They said all they would need from us is a description of the size and everything of the sign, what was going to go on the sign, and the location of it, so they could make what kind of permit is that? An encroachment permit, to get an encroachment permit for it. So Rick and I did go down and scout out the spots there was 3 that we were looking at the Rotary Park down at the Y, and the entrance to the park that would be where the tennis courts and the bowl are, so that we could talk about the history of Libby Park and the tennis courts, the tennis tournament, and the Ojai festivals. And then we would put one more out further down past Fulton Street that would look out over the area that used to be the depot, and we'd have a picture of the depot and information about that. So we got some pictures.
Wasn't the jail also?
Oh, but I was gonna bring that up for discussion, because we thought about the jail, and I have to admit, I didn't even really know this sign was down there, but you probably know because you were down there a lot. There is actually a sign down there. It's in terrible shape. And you can't even read a lot of what's on it because the weather has gotten to it. So what I wanted to ask the commission is whether they would think that we could just eliminate that one, and because there's plaques on the actual jail, that we could pull that one up on the trail, so as people walk along the trail, they would see a sign that would have all that information about the jail down below, and might actually encourage them to go down there. So that would be 4 signs that we would come up with. I did call Donna Jones, the president of the Rotary West, and she was going to meet with her board on the 10th, and she got back to me and said they're all very excited about it, and they can't wait to be walking along and see these plaques with the story of Ojai. And so they thought the area by the horse trough, which is what we suggested to her that she talked to about, would be a great spot for it, because it's next to the trail, and there's not a whole lot else right around that except for the trough. So it's kind of coming together. We just have to come up with a few more details, I think, and then come up with a strategy for how we would present it to the council, because I feel like we need council approval before we would go down and apply for an encroachment permit from the county, for example. So that I would offer that suggestion, or ask you for what you would suggest as an order of operations for writing up a proposal for the council and presenting it to them. Or do you think they've already agreed to it after our?
Well, I do think that we, everyone that we've talked to, including council people, and, I've never seen anybody have a negative response to this project. And I spoke at the city council meeting the other night and requested the seed money, so they do know that it's something that we're working on. So I explained quickly a lot of what you had given me for the budget request for the trail signs. And I mentioned all the people who are already tentatively supportive of it, and I think that was really powerful just to show the early support that you're having. So I didn't get a no, but the budget's a living document and all that kind of stuff, so I don't know, but I didn't get a no.
Well, it'd be nice to know, because there's a certain preparation cost that 10 to 15,000 would help to, get them written, get them designed by a professional. We want them to look nice and have a common theme, so when people come along, they recognize them as being the same kind of sign. So there's a little bit of that kind of planning, and we'd have to buy the frames and for the 4 that we're going to build. And then we're thinking of getting a commitment from one of the service clubs to maybe install them like they did other things around town. Yeah.
So at what point do you want to go to council? How close, is it something, because it takes a while to get on council docket, is it something that we want to put a request for? Because it might be months before it actually happens.
Yeah, depending on what else you think we need to go, in order to go to them.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, I just had a thought, and this adds more money. It would be great if on the trail, as people walked, they knew how far they were going. So if half a mile, because people do use that for exercise and running and walking. And there are a lot of places like at Kimball Park, it's all marked out. And I think quarter of a mile things. You could do half a mile. And there may be some groups here that do running and walking that might be interested in pitching in. But I think that's an encouraging way to get people to use the trail more and to give them an idea of how far, it's exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Just a thought.
Right.
Don't have to do it, but just put it in the back of your head.
Okay.
Just a little tiny thing. Wouldn't have to be big.
And I'm not quite sure, I'll have to talk to Lindy more as to whether, when the county says all we need is an encroachment permit, whether that applies only to the property that belongs to the city, or if that applies to all of their, again, we still want to just start with those 4, but it would be nice to know if we could build on it and put signs in down along the highway next to Crotona or down in Miramani.
Yeah, that's the only problem is it's history based. It's not distance based. So maybe those spots in between aren't exactly, but maybe it's you've come this far since the last sign. It might be something that's because it can't be put someplace that's off from the history that we're trying to tell.
Yeah.
So, Chair, can I make
Yes, please.
a suggestion? So, to make a fellow commissioner happy, because we've talked about different things over the years. We talked about markers, historical markers, and right on the trail, the place Terry Hill wanted to have a historical marker was the Olive Mill House. And the Olive Mill House is right there on the railroad.
At the end of Ball Street.
Yeah, and so, in honor to Terry, I'd just like to
Well,
make
my
that
hope would-
suggestion.
Well, I would hope that some of the next ones we do would be the Olive Mill, the packing house. And these could have pictures with a description of, because that's one of the reasons they wanted the railroad was because of the citrus industry.
Yep.
And it would tell the story not only of the train, but of the history of the area, but also the history of the trail and how it came about. It's interesting, I discovered that when they built the train, they started in Ventura, and they added on tracks until they wound up here in Ojai. It was built from south to north, but when they built the running trail, it was the opposite direction. They started out by the packing house, and they built it down to Ventura.
And the way you got the money for the trail was because my father-in-law was in charge of the packing house, and when the flood came and washed out the railroad, he was given an option by the railroad. You can either have us rebuild the railroad, or we'll give you the money. And so Harry Sims said, we'll take the money. And then they joined with another packing house, and they were able then to get their fruit transferred that way, rather than taking them and making them rebuild the whole railroad.
Yeah.
So,
Well, what's interesting too is there was kind of a fight in Ojai at the time. It wasn't really a fight, but there was a lot of people that wanted to take that right away and make another east-west road, because Ojai Avenue was getting so crowded, and that was back 50 years ago or whatever it was. A lot of people probably wish there was another east-west road, but they decided to do the trail.
Do you have anything you want to add, Rick? So, how do we feel about making a motion to request have a presentation at a city council meeting regarding the trails? Because I'm assuming that's not going to happen immediately, and it'll give us, we'll still have time to polish it up and figure out what we need to know.
I will look into the process of getting this to council. It sounds like there's not going to be an invoice or anything before June 30th, so it'll go in next year's budget. But
And
yeah.
I had requested it for this next year's budget, so they are aware of it.
Maybe you could just put it on as a consent item.
Perfect. So, is that a motion then, or is that just a request, or what is that?
I want to take a motion to move this forward to
To council?
a request, for a council request.
Yes, that's
But
what I
I'm a
want to do.
little unclear about the funding, so that's something that is separate, right? We wouldn't be going to them and asking them for the money all over again. You already
You're
did
right.
that.
And I will stay on, I want to make sure that everybody knows that this is what it's for and everything, so but it's all just time, so if we don't put this into place, then it might be waiting, so I think,
Okay,
and it will be next fiscal year's budget anyway, so,
okay.
and they have to approve it before that money would be allotted to us anyway, I mean, so.
It's a
that's what-
discussion to be
Oh,
had, for
that's
sure.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So take a vote on that.
Yes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Can we have a roll call?
McCatton,
Yes.
Sims,
yes.
Akins,
Yes.
Basasha,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Okay. So, secretary.
Yes, this item is regarding an election of an HPC secretary to serve a one-year term. So within the Committees and Commission Handbook adopted on March 11th, 2025, that I think maybe we put that one, no, we didn't. You all have been given the handbook. The commission must elect a secretary for a one-year term to take minutes. And you can nominate yourself or another member, and then you take a vote, and there has to be a majority. If we don't get a majority, you keep doing it until you get one. And what that secretary is required to do is take action minutes, which essentially include the item, the motion, and the vote, not all of the discussion. The discussion is on video. And whoever that person gets voted in will be provided an example of how to take the minutes, what the formatting is, and we'll start at the next meeting. And then that secretary will provide the minutes to staff, your liaison, after the meeting, so it'll get into the next packet the way it does now. So all commissions are doing this, and I'm not sure if this was included in the last handbook or not, but it's included in your March 2025 handbook. And so I was asked to put this on the agenda tonight, and you'll make a nomination and take a vote.
Anybody want to volunteer to do this?
Never in this lifetime. I'll do it.
Rick will do it.
I volunteer.
It's taking that from staff and having it on the commission. So, and then again, the video has all of the details, but
So I would like
but
to.
the motion is available, or the final action is available.
I would like to second Craig Watt. No, I'm just kidding. You leave the room and we nominate. No, to nominate Rick Bisaccia to be our secretary. So, can we have a roll call?
McCatton. McCatton.
Yes.
Sims.
Yes.
Akins.
Absolutely.
Do I say Bisaccia?
I think the motion is for Bisaccia, so did you get Walker?
Not yet. Walker.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
There we go.
So Rick Bisaccia, you are now our secretary.
Yes. And remember, we want action minutes.
I've only been a secretary one other time, and that was the assistant secretary to the assistant secretary of the Thatcher Faculty Brat Nature Club.
Wow.
So it's an honor.
So
Yes.
I had a question because I watch our videos on YouTube. It was no time, so every time I wanted to watch a 3-hour meeting, I have to sit there and pull it along. And so when we were going to do action minutes, I asked if it could be like at what time all of this is happening on the video. And I didn't realize that it's because I watch it on YouTube that it doesn't do that. But if you go through the city site and you go through the video there, it is actually already does that. So if you're doing your action minutes and you have a question, it's like, wait, who did that? If you go there, you can actually go directly to the item and not have to try to figure out where it was so if Sherry she walked me through exactly where it was. So if you have a question where it is, you can, it makes it a lot easier.
So Rick, we'll be in touch next week, and we'll get you the format and show you what Chair just described. Okay.
And I'll help if you miss a meeting or something, okay?
Unless we're both gone. I wonder when that happened.
Okay, so now we're on education. And I have a lot, so I'm going to read it really fast, okay? The California Preservation Foundation, there's a 1-hour lunchtime program called Learning California History Through Landmarks. It's on July 31st. It's one of the free, well, obviously they're all free because we're members, but it's just talks about focusing on why landmarks are such powerful tools for understanding the past and how communities continue to evolve. I think it might be not so much a learning policy like a lot of these are, but I thought just we might be interested in it as Historic Preservation Commissioners. So that would be a good one. There's also another 2-part boot camp called on July 17th and July 24th, both Thursdays, on cultural landscapes. And I thought this would really tie in well to the trail project because it goes beyond the questions of what is a cultural landscape to explore deeper issues. How do I evaluate and define landscape? How do I understand what was here before, the layered evolution over time? How do I plan for its future growth and change? It examines the processes used to document, evaluate, and manage the landscape with a focus on practical approaches to determining significance, guiding change, and supporting long-term stewardship. So I was thinking that might be good information as far as we're not on these trails, we're not talking about what's here, we're talking about what was there and how to describe that cultural landscape. So I thought that might be something that might be really helpful for us to watch. And that's a 2-parter boot camp. And then switching over to the National Alliance for Preservation Commissioner, I thought this was a really good one. It's coming up soon on Thursday, June 26th at 1 p.m. It's creating and updating historic design guidelines. Design guidelines help communities protect the unique character of the historic districts while still allowing growth and change. This webinar will take a close look on how local governments and preservation commissions can create and update guidelines that are clear, user-friendly, and effective. Balancing historic preservation goals with modern needs like energy efficiency, accessibility, and infill development, and how to build public support through inclusion, transparent processes, and real-world examples. So that is $15 a person for non-members, but I think that we should talk about using our education budget to have a full commission. The way it works is, depending on how many people live in your city that you're commissioner on, for the size of ours, it was $150 a year, and with that you get access to all of their other videos that they have on, and they do give, if you watch them, they will give you credit, which is if we ever do get certified. So that's something that all of these things, when you watch them, you can build credit, and if we do look for a commission certification, those are all really good ones to be members of. And so that was my update. So if I said that too fast and you have questions about when and where, just email me or Maura, and we'll make sure that you have that. So that was it.
So can we go ahead and pay for a, can we go ahead and pay for a subscription to that then?
Does everybody in
'Cause I
support of spending
belong.
$150 of our education budget?
Yes.
Yes.
Can we do that?
Yeah, so you can pay for it yourself and submit an invoice,
No.
or you can get the information to me and I can sign you up. Or
Okay,
have
it's
staff sign you up.
$150 for the year, and it's for all of us,
Oh,
including the
just
city.
150 for everybody.
For everybody, for
Can
the
you
whole
please-
year, including city and commission. So,
Excellent.
If
Can you
there's-
forward me the information? Thanks.
okay. And now, are we on commissioner comments? Or future agenda items, which do we do first?
Next meeting, we have State Historic District, which might as well put those two together with Ojai Day.
Yes.
And we're going to revisit the timer item and the brochures. I've only received information, I think, from one person regarding the brochures.
I brought mine with me, but were we supposed to send them to you?
Yeah, you can hand it to me, or you can email it to me, either way.
I didn't know if we were gonna talk about them because my handwriting's pretty bad.
I think what we were gonna do is that they were gonna be provided to staff, and I was gonna make the changes and then bring them back. However, if you'd like to talk about the changes that you wanna make, then
Can we do that next meeting?
sure?
I would prefer if we did it next meeting.
Yeah, me too.
And I can write my notes better.
And that will give us a chance to reach out, because there was a little, I was under the impression that Craig was reaching out to Dawn and Elise. I think you thought that I was, and I maybe, but, so I will make sure that one of us reaches out
Yeah.
to our outside body of historians that have helped us in the past to kind of give a look at them and get their opinion on them as well.
Okay, and then you can discuss them at the next meeting. We'll put that on the agenda, and if anybody wants to send me their comments in advance, that's fine too.
Okay.
So either or, but it'll be on next agenda.
Also, on the July 10th, can we get the information for the RFQ or RFP, depending on what that?
We'll look into that. I can't commit to that right now. The money, the budget hasn't been done for the next fiscal year yet, so we're not really behind the game by not having that RFQ here, and deadlines are a priority
Okay.
for staff, so.
Can someone explain what you're talking about? RFQ, RFP?
Oh, the RFP is to send out to historian consulting firms for the updating of the survey.
Request for proposals.
Yeah, I'm sorry, request for proposal.
Yeah, I know what RFP and RFQ.
Right, it's for the it's for updating the survey.
I just didn't know.
So at the joint meeting, the council approved moving forward with that. So there's two things. One is getting the RFP, and then the other is the budget for the fiscal year, next fiscal year.
So at that meeting that you're talking about, we'll be discussing what we want in the RFP?
Staff is going to provide you with an RFP, and you'll be able to discuss it and look at it and make sure that you're good with it before it gets sent
Okay.
out.
Great.
So, yeah, so you can have input. But even though it's taking time to get the RFP here, you're not really behind. It's in time because the budget's not set.
Got it.
Yes, after
Okay.
7 hours.
Then can we move on now to, do you have any report that, from planning or anything?
I don't, thank you.
Okay. And so I have a commissioner comment. I need advice on this. So I made a suggestion to the California Preservation Foundation about its yearly Doors Open California to do a downtown historic walk focusing on our state historic district on their days that they open up all of California to different events. This is on September 13th and September 14th. They have events up and down the state to showcase California's historic resources. They contacted me and said they liked the idea. But now I'm not sure with Ojai Day and all the things that we're already doing if we want to take on another project. It would be to creating a specific map just for the California district, and it would be like probably two things, maybe a DIY that they could download the map and just go on a walk on their own and self-discovery, as well as maybe a couple of times on each of those days where it could either be led by one of us or a docent at the museum or someone that was willing to do it. I need to let them know before our next meeting, so I don't know if it's too much this year or if it would tie in well with what we're doing anyway this year. What do you all think?
So the museum has a history walk downtown, other than the summer months when too many people were melting. So they'll get back doing that in the fall. The thing that's perhaps most interesting on it is that the people who are doing that tour have their own tour. So, like the Bog Sisters, there used to be two of them doing their tour, and I was told both of them are completely different. So, always interesting. So, and the reason I'm saying that is, if you're looking at them, if you're gonna look at, what are they doing, you have to understand that.
Right.
Everybody puts their flavor in, but yeah, it's there, other than the summer months, they get it going on Saturday mornings. So.
Yeah, I mean, the way I sold it was the state historic district and the 28 properties that are, but a lot of them are just the arcade. It might be 20, so it's not like going to each place and saying, but it's just walking along and talking about why it's a state historic district and maybe the story of the history of why it's important to our community. But I don't know. I mean, Commissioner Walker also suggested one, and it also got picked up for the.
Yes, I'm gonna do one on that Sunday for the Gables. So we're doing an event there where people can come and go through the Gables and learn the history of it. So I'll be committed to that on the 14th.
So, is this something that we should pursue? I mean, or is it something that we should just be like, maybe next year?
Well, I think that the plaque won't even be up, will it?
No.
So, and then we're working on, could we for this use the current map? We couldn't, because that's not
No, it would
State
have to be
Historic
specific
District.
to the state historic district.
So, I don't know.
We can ask to, I can let them know that our plaque is going up on Ojai Day and maybe the following
Maybe
year.
better to do it the following year.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The other thing is, we've been talking about a brochure, and it seems like that would possibly could be part of that, right?
Right.
A walking
Yeah.
map with a brochure that talks about all the places.
Yeah. At that point, I think it's gonna be a book. It's gonna be great. It's gonna have so much
If we got the
information.
brochure done, they could be at the museum and people could check in at the museum and get that one. It just might conflict with the museum tour on that Saturday, but maybe they could just take a week off. Yeah.
So we should wait until the plaque's up? Is that what I'm getting?
Or have them come and do the walking tour.
You mean of the walking tour we currently do,
The-
rather than the state historic district that she's
But that's
talking
not really
about?
fall. I mean, if it starts to get up again in the fall, September is like our hottest month.
Yeah, it is. Not pleasant.
No. So, anyway, I guess I will, I don't know. So. What do you feel? I wanna do it right. I think it's exciting to have it be so close with everything going on, but because we're doing all of this anyway, but, it does seem like when we're opening ourselves up to the state of California, we wanna do it right. And I just don't think that we have the manpower to maybe.
And didn't you say you might be gone that weekend?
No, I would work around it if
Oh,
we do
okay.
it, you know, but, yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna have just the gables be the showcase for Doors Open and tell them that we'd be happy to do this next
But
year.
next
We
year.
want to reach for a plaque. Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have?
I have a question. Is the Gables part of Doors Open?
What's that?
Is the Gables, literally it's part of State of California Doors Open?
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
yeah. We've got Lily Lou, who's the ex-historian for AARP, is gonna come and give a talk, and we'll give them a tour of the facility and talk about Dr. Andrus. I just wanted to mention, I have a couple of articles that are out in the local magazines. One I did with Perry Van Houten on the history of Miramani. I'm sure you didn't know that Miramani had a fantastic history, but it actually does. So if you look for that new one, it has a picture of the dam, of the old Matilla Dam on the front. And it's, because it's Highway 33, Perry put it, 33 fundamental things to know about Miramani, but it goes into the history. And then with Mark Lewis, I worked on an article about the Y, and again, there's a ton of history at the Y, so you'll be fascinated to read that one too. That one has Mark Lewis's mother on the cover of it, if you've gotten that, yeah.
Wonderful. Anyone else? No, we're done?
I can say, after traveling through all these historic places that are truly and truly historic, we need to keep going. We need to keep making this place famous because we're still not very old.
Right.
We're young.
You know, I have my cousin in Benevento, Italy. She does something very similar to what we do here, and but she just laughs at me with my 100-year-old buildings, you know. So
I know, I think 100, we think 100 years is a long time in Ojai. I think like, well, I'm almost 3/4 of that, or I am 3/4 of that.
yes, okay. Well, I'm gonna thank you so much.
Sweet. I'm out of here.